Hey! Back with you guys. It's been a while. I've been kind of in a lull here for a week or two. Just adjusting the camera here a bit. My sense of where I'm at in any given moment has this swimming quality, right? Like I don't latch into a structured picture of myself. So that structured picture of yourself, or how you view yourself, like how you confine yourself in the world, is, in my thinking, a way that you step out of flow, a way that you lock yourself into a pattern that ignores what's happening moment by moment, right? So I'm kind of more in the moment, or more in a state of flow a lot. And that's not necessarily that I'm some big spiritual boohoo or anything. I just have this vacillating idea of myself, this variability. And the variability, isn't for everybody. I mean, do we need everybody to be variable? I don't think so. Do I happen to be one of these very variable guys? Yeah. I have a loose, softer connection to things. And I happen to think it's pretty cool. And it also means that I don't necessarily fit a lot of patterns, right? And this frustrates some people. This makes some people really nervous. Oh my God, this guy's like, pretty out there and a little crazy. And part of what's been going on for me here in the last few weeks, like from mid-December, early December onward, is I've just let my middles do whatever, I've given them kind of free range. And that comes out kind of spooky, right? Like we're painting minivans, we're playing street hockey in the middle of a major roadway. There's a, I don't want to say devil may care, because I think some of their intentions are more like, hey, notice that these patterns that you're all attached to, these static ideas you have, can be fucked with, right? And they're not necessarily so in your face about it to make you uncomfortable. I mean, in a way, a lot of this is humor. The problem with humor, and I get into this a little bit in my book, is it often is a veiled way of expressing anger, right? Like, I look at my internal family and I look at them and I say, okay, you guys have been hiding out for 40, 50 years, right? Mostly on the inside. I didn't even know you were there. Like, I kind of knew you were there. Like, looking back on things, obviously there's been all of these connections that I've made in the last year, looking at my multiplicity. But at the time, understanding that there were these different levels or different layers of where I was at wasn't really like a thing for me. It just seemed to be this foggy, sometimes something would come out of the mist and be a little more present for me, and then it would recede back into this separate awareness, or this quieter space behind me, right? So I would think I was always Mark, or Ryder. Really, Mark is an extension of Ryder, or a platform for Ryder, right? Ryder built his house on Mark, and Mark has been, you know, that do anything for you guy, you know, wants everybody to be agreeable and polite, and has a knack for seeing into people's situations, wanting to help people. So we became a nurse, right? So we did this whole gig of nursing, and Patience was along for that. Patience was very committed to that, and very organized for the maternal aspects of nursing. But she didn't really subscribe totally to the Mark platform, right? She has her own, what I would call, instead of a platform, she has like a little postage stamp, right? I've told you guys before, it's like she's standing in the middle of this raging river on a small rock, opening and doing this kind of maneuver, or this summoning her power somehow to stay relevant and to keep herself, I don't want to use the word precise, but it's more like this crazy balancing act, right? This balance, this sort of tenderness of letting go of everything to find where you're slipping or where you're dipping. And that idea that she can basically stand in the middle of something that's just raging around her and be centered has this tremendous utility, this tremendous power. It also means she is sharper and more fucking dangerous than you can imagine. I look at her sometimes and I think she gets it, right? Like, she's not deluded by a lot of softer, more comfortable surroundings. She's in the middle of the fire, and she's looking out at everybody comfortably at a distance, warmed by the fire, but not getting burnt by it, not getting singed by it. And she's getting burnt up. She has this tremendous availability to the heat and to the discomfort. So, to sum it up in terms that are more or less manageable for most of you, you would all look at her and say, she's psychotic. She has a aggressive clarity. There's different ways I could run this up the flagpole for you guys. I could try to make you a little more comfortable with things surrounding Patience. And it's not my intention here to make anyone super over the top nervous about her. But what I'll tell you is, there's an example we can use all this COVID stuff, right? Everybody's freaking out about these death rates for white middle-class Americans, being so concerned that their health is in jeopardy. when American foreign policy around the world has been creating health disasters and ecological problems, famines for people for decades, right? You're all basically fascists for other countries. But when fascism comes home to your country and you're suddenly at risk, oh, well, that's no good, right? Now you're all upset about it. And I'll say this in as light of terms as possible. You're all fucking hypocrites. You know, don't worry about all the shit that's coming down the pike for you. You've had it coming for a long fucking time. It's not like you're all lily white and, you know, pristine and just wonderful people. You're fucking assholes. And I'm not trying to say this to make you feel bad. I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. But there are people in the Western world, in modern society, that have been living off of the sweat and blood and tears of other people, murdering, dominating, you know, like colonizing other races for centuries. And you're all so concerned that you're getting sick. I mean, the sickness that you've brought on yourself, right? The karma that is coming back into your lives to disrupt your nice, comfortable little patterns. It's just what's due to you. It's what you've brought on yourself. And the idea that most of you can't see that you're too fucking stupid with your heads too far up your asses to realize that you've brought all of this garbage onto yourselves isn't our problem, you know? I look at what's happening and I'm wondering, wow, is this it? Is this all that's gonna happen? I mean, if this is it, you're getting off scot-free. This is the lightest, gentlest tap on the wrist of any species, of any section of mankind or womankind that I've ever seen. You think everything's going badly for you, and it's basically just a small little correction for all the crap that you guys have laid out on other people for decades. The hardship that America's caused around the world, most of you have no idea, because you're being fed information by a corporate media that doesn't want you to know what fucking assholes they are in the rest of the world. The sickness that is America has a utility. It is happening so that you can fucking wake up. Now let me get back to patience for a minute. If tomorrow morning we woke up and there were only 30 or 40 million people on the planet, we just fucking cleared off 7 billion of you, she wouldn't bat an eye. She'd look and go, oh, good. That's a lot of fucking assholes out of the way. Now, does that mean she's necessarily a bad person? Is it something to say humanity's valid in its present form? Because from what I can tell with this great big downward spiral that we're all in, from what I can tell with how shitty the environment's gotten, how toxic life has become, the water's poisoned, there's heavy metals everywhere, definitely many, many places they shouldn't be, right? Cancer rates are through the roof. Everything is leaning towards this is how we fall apart. So if we're all on a plateau, like sheep marching along, and these sheep are falling off the edge of the plateau, down a cliff, and all of these guys mulling around back here are like, oh yeah, this is the way we should be doing things. Except the guys that get close to the edge and they realize, hey, this is a cliff, they're like, holy fuck, this wasn't a good idea, right? All of this mulling around like idiots seems okay when you're over here, but when you get close to the edge and you're looking down off that cliff, you're like, wow, this was fucking stupid. And all I think that's happening for patients, and all I think that's happening for a lot of you people out there who are frustrated and who are like doing, what do we want to call it? Injustice? What is injustice if everything's going to shit? If this is just suddenly tilting and everybody's sliding off, there really isn't any justice. It's all just coming around to kick us in the ass. Is the world ending? I don't think so. I think humanity's got a lot of time and a lot of effort and energy left, but not in its present configuration. Not with its level of current stupidity. And when I look at patients and I think to myself, holy fuck, she's like a vicious, like hard person. I'm thankful for her. I'm thankful that there's somebody who's saying, hey, this has gone on long enough. You guys are fucking assholes. Wake up. Does that mean she's a horrible person? No, I think what it means is you've all gotten so shitty at sustaining life on this planet that you've made yourself irrelevant. There's a big wake-up call in my book, and I've been pondering back and forth and back and forth. Do I lay it out for you here? You know, how much do I need to divulge? What is the purpose of having a written work assembled and ready to go for people to look at, if you're gonna just tear it apart piece by piece and spoon feed it to people? And so I'm not spoon feeding everything out of the book into these videos I've been doing. There's enough of you out there that are wise enough with enough depth and sincerity to understand what I'm saying, but the bulk of you are fucking idiots, and it's time you stopped being idiots. Humanity, this structure we're holding, isn't working. It isn't working, 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 it isn't working for centuries. But everybody will tell you, oh, well, this is the way we have to do things. That's the definition of insanity. If that produces more insanity, if that produces more resistance, more blowback, more aggression, does that mean that that aggression that's being produced, or that viciousness that comes out of these maneuvers, is the fault of the person who's reacting that way? Or is it that the bulk of humanity is that fucking stupid that we have people out there who are obviously fed up of the garbage? Do I think someone walking into a school or a public place with an automatic weapon carting around thousands of rounds of ammunition, as much as they can carry, to see how many people they can kill, is a good idea? No. I think it's a really, really sick function of how retarded society has become. And when I say retarded, I don't mean any kind of like slant or slur against people with disabilities or lower cognitive functioning. I mean backwards retarded. The bulk of humanity at this stage of our existence is retarded. They're going backwards. They're falling apart. All of you are shitting the bed. I don't know how to say it any clearer than this. I'm not that much further ahead than any of you. In several of my configurations, in several of my patterns, I'm just as dysfunctional as the rest of you. I can see it. And we can all sense it. I think at our deepest, most functional, most primitive levels, we understand that we're killing ourselves. But then there's people who are bouncing up and going, hey, enough of this shit, and fighting back. And we call these people disruptive, right? Oh, these people are bad. They have too much volatility, or they're too vicious. No, they're adequately prepared to meet the bullshit that's coming down the pike with all of this retarded garbage and saying, enough, smarten the fuck up. Is violence the answer? Violence is a predominant pattern. That is how, when we can't solve things, we try to solve things. So violence is just another part of the retarded pattern out there. So is patience violent? Could she be? I suppose. I mean, you back anyone into a corner far enough and you're going to see something come out that you're not going to be very happy with. But is that her first choice or second choice or third choice? No. She's open enough. She's wise enough to look at all of this, to fucking sideways slanted into our consciousness years ago, made us write a book without even realizing that she was writing it, and is bringing as much open influence, open-handedness to our awareness as possible. And she's definitely out there going, hey, look, you guys are fucking assholes. And there have been some instances here lately where she's come out when we're not really completely aware and been really, really nasty, really, really hard on some people. And I don't know that those people necessarily deserve it, but I'll tell you, the load that she carries on any given day is probably 50,000 times more than whatever the average person out there marching around with is aware of. She's put herself in a position to say, enough. She and Ridicu, during our, whatever it was, 48, 50 hours of meditation 30 years ago, called all evil towards us. They said, okay, fuck it. You guys are either going to kick our asses or we're going to figure our way out of this. And so she stood up with Ridicule and said, fuck you guys, I'll take you all on. Now, you don't fight that kind of battle for those kinds of years, decades, and come out of it clean and pristine and all kind of like, you know, having all this beautiful public relations in place, right? She's a fucking monster. She's taken on more aggression and garbage than most people take on in 50 lifetimes. And she is vicious at times. She will cut you to fucking ribbons. I don't hold it against her. I look at her and say, go. Figure out this horse shit. Get the world on track. Now, when I'm standing back and I'm looking at some of this stuff and I'm saying, okay, how delusional am I? Or how delusional is she that we can fix this shit? The thing is, when you put yourself in the position to fix it, and this is what she's done with Ridicule, that question becomes irrelevant. You either fix it or you don't. So she's fully committed. She's fully stepped into the breach and said, I'm sorting this shit out. The rest of you are mostly bystanders. You're mostly hoping somebody like Patience comes along and sorts out all of this garbage. This boils down to where the magic lies. I want you to understand something very, very clearly. The male ethic or the male energy supports the female's magnificence, the female's magic. I don't want to say women and I don't want to say females so much, but the feminine is creating. It is what opens and blossoms from its center. The masculine holds it or sustains it somehow, right? But it's the female. It's the feminine. And what happens a lot is that feminine twists and kind of like holds the masculine in certain positions to do things for it or to do things around it that don't work. And it hasn't been working, and it hasn't been working, and it hasn't been working, and it hasn't been working. And when I look at some of the feminine out there and I think to myself, well, you know, you're beautiful, you have all of this power, you have all of this majesty, you are the creators. But you're squandering it. You're latching on to things that are conformist. You're latching on to things that have limited utility. You're basically chicken shits. There's a lot of women out there, tough as nails, very strong, very capable, doing amazing things, but then holding themselves back at times and saying, oh no, but we can't go this far. We can't make this happen. We have to conform to these ideas. when I consider what's going to get us beyond all this dysfunction, that's difficult. That's a power, majesty, presence that has to be held by everyone. It isn't like one person or two people or 10 or 10,000 people coming out and saying, oh, we are the guardians and we'll sort all this out for you. What that means is the 10,000 that step out have 7 billion who are like, oh, okay, we'll follow you. And that's the typical idea that most people have around higher functioning, higher frequency beings. We're all higher functioning beings. We are all gods, behaving like idiots. I'm one of them. I'm standing back and I'm looking at patients and I'm looking at Ridiculous and I'm saying, okay, I think you guys have the right idea. This seems to be more and more and more and more dysfunction. More and more and more and more sheep plummeting off the cliff. Where does this awareness open up? How do we get ourselves out of this pattern? It isn't with more conformity. It isn't with more nice, comfortable ideas. I'm gonna cut it here. And there's tons more I could say. But I'm leaving most of it in the book. Patience wrote the book. She wrote about 70% of it. And she wants you to have it. She wants you to be the owners of the book. There's an idea that, you know, you write something or you create something and it's yours and you share it with the world. She has expanded. She has opened to everything out there so that she can stay balanced on that one little rock. Impossibly balanced, impossibly powerful, in one position, in the most hardship-oriented spot for 40, 50 years. And she's done it. And she doesn't want credit for it because she's opened herself to everything in order to find that balance. And so everything out there, everything that is the dynamic, is what brings her mastery. And so she's not separate from all of it. When we look at you guys and say, you're fucking idiots, it's not because that's your terminal state of being. I mean, it can be your terminal state of being. You can kill yourself, you can wander off the cliff. But it's a pattern that you've gotten yourself locked into with a lot of inertia, with a lot of, I don't want to say laziness, because I think sometimes we work and we work and we work thinking that's going to solve things, and really all we're doing is making work. there doesn't have to be even half the work in the world out there if we were positioned to understand that we all have this power together. Together, all this functionality is unstoppable. But everybody wants to fight and break and move and twist and argue and, find ourselves in these spread out, disruptive, divisive patterns. I said I'd cut it a few minutes ago and I'm still talking, and I do that sometimes because I'm not sure if I've really covered the bases decently enough, if I've actually made a good enough summation, if I can say something one way and then flip it over and say it another way and then open it another way to bring you more understanding, to get you out of this repetitive idiocy that you're stuck in. That's what I'm doing. And I may or may not have covered it very well here, but this is about as far as I want to go today with it. So what I'm saying to you in the most basic terms is, this is our open-handed psychosis. It's not a psychosis that's this ugly thing that everybody has to be worried about. It's a psychosis that comes from all of this garbage that keeps swirling and keeps bumping itself head up against the wall, head up against the wall, stupidity, stupidity, stupidity. You fight fire with fire, right? So when she's vicious, when she's really, really cutting you to pieces, you deserve it. You've been working on getting that result your entire fucking lives. There's a saying, being cruel to be kind. That's 99% of where she's coming from. Some of it's frustration, some of it's pure, unadulterated, all-out fucking monster horror energy that she's just fed up. But only about that much. Most of it's just looking at you going, wake up. This is what you're producing. This ugliness, this brutality, it's got to stop sometime. We're looking forward to stopping it. We see a way past it. It would be really cool if you assholes started to see a way past it as well.